An arrogant mafia boss walked into her family dinner like he owned the place. Everyone went silent, everyone except Sofia. When he made a comment that disrespected her mother, she set down her wine glass, looked him straight in the eye, and said the words no one else dared to speak. That moment changed everything because Dante Russo didn't get angry. He laughed. And that dark, dangerous laugh was the beginning of something neither of them expected. This is the story of how a threat became a promise, how defiance became desire, and how one fearless moment at a dinner table changed two lives forever. Before we begin, I need your help. We're working hard to reach more listeners, and your support means everything. If you enjoy these stories, please hit that subscribe button, and I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. Drop a comment and tell me your location. Are you listening from New York, London, Lagos, Manila, Toronto? Let's build a global community of romance lovers together. Your comment helps us grow and bring you more stories like this one. I knew something was wrong the moment my father dropped his fork. In 26 years, I had never seen my father drop anything. Antonio Marchetti was a man of precision, of control, of carefully measured movements. He ran his restaurant empire with the same meticulous attention he gave to everything in his life. But that fork clattered against his plate like a gunshot, and suddenly the warm Sunday dinner atmosphere in our family home turned to ice. We were all there. My mother, Alina, sat at the opposite end of the table, her famous homemade lasagna steaming in the center. My older brother Marco was to my left, his wife Lisa beside him, their hands intertwined on the tablecloth. My younger sister Valentina sat across from me, mid-sentence about her nursing school exams when the color drained from her face. She was looking at something behind me. I turned, and there he was. Dante Russo filled the doorway of our dining room like he'd been carved from shadow and sin. He was tall, easily 6'3", with broad shoulders that strained against the fabric of his perfectly tailored black suit. His hair was dark, almost black, swept back from a face that could have belonged to a Renaissance sculpture if Renaissance sculptors had known anything about danger. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes, God, those eyes, they were the color of aged whiskey, amber and gold, and they swept the room with the casual assessment of a predator deciding which prey to devour first. Behind him stood two men in matching dark suits, their faces expressionless, their hands clasped in front of them. Guards, of course. Antonio, Dante's voice was deep, smooth like velvet draped over broken glass. I hope I'm not interrupting. The words were polite. The tone made it clear he didn't care if he was. My father stood slowly, his napkin falling from his lap to the floor. He didn't pick it up. My father always picked things up. Mr. Russo, this is unexpected. Most important conversations are. Dante walked into the room without invitation, without permission. He moved like he owned every space he entered, like the world had learned long ago to simply rearrange itself around him. He pulled out the empty chair at the head of the table, the chair no one ever sat in because it had been my grandmother's before she passed, and settled into it like a king claiming a throne. Please, he said, gesturing at our frozen family, continue your meal, I won't be long. My mother's hand went to her throat, her fingers trembling against her pearl necklace. Marco's jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might shatter. Lisa had gone pale as paper. Valentina was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. And me. I was angry. I didn't know much about Dante Russo, but I knew enough. Everyone in this city knew enough. He controlled the underground, gambling, protection, importing businesses that never quite appeared on any official registry. He was the kind of man that politicians pretended didn't exist while secretly accepting his donations. The kind of man that made other powerful men cross the street to avoid. The kind of man who apparently felt entitled to crash our family dinner and terrify everyone I loved. What do you want? I asked. Every head snapped toward me. My father's eyes went wide with warning. My mother made a small sound of distress, but I didn't look away from Dante Russo. Those amber eyes found mine, and something flickered in their depths. Surprise, maybe, or curiosity. "Sofia," my father said, his voice tight with barely contained panic. "This doesn't concern you." "He's sitting at our table in my grandmother's chair," I replied, still holding Dante's gaze. "It concerns me." The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway, the distant sound of traffic outside, the racing of my own heartbeat. Then Dante smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a man who had just found something unexpectedly entertaining. "Your daughter has fire, Antonio. I see she didn't inherit your caution." "Sofia has always spoken her mind," my father said, and I could hear the fear beneath his words, the desperate plea for me to stop. "She doesn't understand." "I understand plenty." I set down my wine glass, the crystal clicking against the table. "I understand that you walked into our home uninvited. I understand that you sat in a chair that belonged to a woman who spent 40 years building this family. And I understand that you're scaring my mother." I stood, pushing back from the table. "So I'll ask again, Mr. Russo, what do you want?" Dante's smile faded, but something else replaced it. Something I couldn't quite read. He leaned back in the chair, my grandmother's chair, and steepled his fingers beneath his chin. "Your father owes me money," he said, as casually as if discussing the weather. "A significant amount. Money he borrowed to save his restaurants during the pandemic. Money that was supposed to be repaid 6 months ago." The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked at my father, saw the truth written in the guilt on his face. "Papa." "The restaurants were dying, Sofia." His voice cracked. "Every month more debt, more bills, more employees I couldn't pay. I had no choice." "There's always a choice," Dante said. "Your father chose to come to me. And now he's chosen to avoid my calls, to ignore my representatives, to pretend that debts simply disappear if you wish hard enough." "I've been trying to get the money together," my father pleaded. "The restaurants are recovering, I just need more time." "Time?" Dante's voice hardened. "I've given you time, 6 months of time. Do you know what that time has cost me, Antonio? Do you know what happens when word gets out that Dante Russo can be ignored, avoided, made a fool of?" My mother let out a sob. Lisa gripped Marco's arm. Valentina was crying harder now, her shoulders shaking. And something inside me snapped. "Enough." The word rang through the dining room like a bell. Even Dante's guards shifted, their attention fixing on me. "I don't care who you are," I said, my voice steady even as my hands shook at my sides. "I don't care how much money my father owes you. You don't get to walk into our home, sit in my grandmother's chair, and terrorize my family." I took a step toward him, then another, until I was standing directly in front of Dante Russo, close enough to see the gold flecks in his amber eyes. "My mother made that lasagna from scratch. She's been cooking since 6 this morning because Sunday dinner is sacred in this family. My sister has exams tomorrow that will determine her entire future. My brother's wife is 12 weeks pregnant, and they were planning to announce it tonight before you showed up and ruined everything." Something flickered across Dante's face, a crack in the armor. "And my father," my voice caught, but I forced myself to continue. "My father spent his entire life building something to take care of us. If he borrowed money from you, it's because he was desperate, because he loves us more than he loves his own pride. So you can take your intimidation tactics and your scary guards and your expensive suit, and you can get out of my family's home. Now." The silence that followed was deafening. Dante Russo stared at me for a long, endless moment. I waited for the anger, for the threats, for the consequences that would surely come from speaking to a man like him this way. Instead, he laughed. Not a cruel laugh, not a mocking one. A genuine, surprised laugh that transformed his face from dangerous to almost human. "Antonio," he said, still looking at me. You never mentioned that your daughter was a dragon. I apologize, my father stammered. She doesn't know. She knows exactly. Dante stood, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. He was even taller up close, bigger, more overwhelming in every way. She knows exactly what she's doing and who she's doing it to, and she doesn't care. He reached into his jacket pocket. I tensed, heard Marco push back from his chair, but Dante only produced a business card. The debt is still owed, he said, pressing the card into my hand. His fingers brushed mine, and I felt it like an electric shock. But I'm willing to discuss alternative arrangements. What kind of arrangements? That dangerous smile returned. Call me tomorrow, 10 o'clock, we'll talk. He turned to leave, his guards falling into step behind him. But at the doorway, he paused and looked back. Enjoy your dinner, Mrs. Marchetti. I'm told your lasagna is legendary. Then he was gone, leaving behind a wake of shocked silence and a business card burning in my palm. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my old childhood bedroom staring at the ceiling, turning Dante's business card over and over in my fingers. The card was simple. Heavy cardstock, embossed lettering. Just his name, Dante Russo, and a phone number. No title, no company, nothing to indicate what kind of man he was or what kind of business he conducted. But I knew, everyone knew. My phone buzzed with texts from Marco telling me not to call, from Valentina asking if I was okay, from my mother warning me to be careful. I typed back reassurances I didn't feel, promises I wasn't sure I could keep. Then I went back to staring at the card. What kind of alternative arrangements did a man like Dante Russo offer? I knew the stories, the rumors, but my family was already in danger. Whatever threat hung over our heads wasn't going away. And if there was even a chance I could fix this, could I really stay silent? At 9:58 the next morning, I dialed the number. The phone rang twice before he answered. Sofia Marchetti. His voice was like dark honey through the phone. I wondered if you'd actually call. You gave me a card. I assumed you expected me to use it. Expectations and reality rarely align. Most people in your position would have run. Hidden, let their father deal with his own consequences. I'm not most people. No, a pause. You're not. Are you free today? That depends on what you're asking me to be free for. Lunch, somewhere public, since you clearly don't trust me. There's a cafe on 5th Street. I know it's noon. Noon. The line went dead. The cafe was small and bright, filled with the lunch rush of office workers and college students. I spotted Dante immediately. He was impossible to miss. He sat at a corner table, his massive frame somehow making the delicate bistro chair look like doll furniture. He wasn't wearing a suit today, just dark slacks and a gray sweater that clung to his chest in ways that were entirely distracting. No guards, I noted that immediately. He stood when I approached, pulling out my chair like a gentleman from another century. The gesture was oddly charming, and I hated that I noticed. You came alone, I said, settling into the seat. So did you. Does that mean we've both decided to trust each other? It means we've both decided to take a risk. That surprised laugh again, softer this time. I really do like you, Sofia Marchetti. It's inconvenient, but there it is. A waitress appeared, and Dante ordered for us both without consulting me, which should have annoyed me but somehow didn't. Your father owes me $300,000, Dante said once we were alone, plus interest, plus the cost of my patience, which I value highly. 300,000, the number made me dizzy. He doesn't have that. I know. So what happens now? You hurt him, hurt us. Something dark passed through Dante's eyes. Is that what you think of me? I don't know what to think of you. I know what people say. People say many things. Most of them are wrong. He leaned forward, those amber eyes fixed on mine. I'm not going to hurt your father, Sofia. I'm not going to hurt your family. That was never on the table. Then why show up at dinner like that? Why scare everyone? Because your father was ignoring me. Because I needed him to understand that this debt won't disappear. And because, he paused, something shifting in his expression, because I didn't expect you. What does that mean? It means I came to deliver a message and instead found myself being lectured by a woman half my size about my lack of manners. His lips quirked. It was humbling. You deserved it. Probably. The food arrived, and we ate in silence for a few minutes. The comfort of it surprised me, how natural it felt, like we'd done this before. The alternative arrangement, I finally said. What is it? Dante set down his coffee, his expression becoming serious. I own several properties in the city. Hotels, apartment buildings, commercial spaces. Most of them need renovation. I've been looking for someone to oversee the projects, someone with vision, with taste, with the ability to manage contractors and stay on budget. I stared at him. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you the opportunity to work off your father's debt. 1 year of service. Full salary, which you keep, but the debt gets reduced by $25,000 every month. At the end of the year, your father is free and clear. And if I say no? Then we find another way. Your father pays what he can when he can. It takes longer. But I'm not going to break his legs, Sofia. I'm a businessman, not a monster. Why me? You don't know anything about me. I could be terrible at this. You have a master's degree in architecture from one of the best programs in the country. Your designs have won awards. Your attention to detail is legendary. He smiled at my surprise. I do my research, Sofia. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I want conditions, I said, non-negotiables. Name them. My family stays out of this. No one threatens them, visits them, contacts them in any way. Done. I work normal hours. I have a life outside of this. Reasonable. And I want everything in writing. A real contract, legally binding. Dante's eyebrows rose. You want a paper trail connecting you to me. I want protection. If this goes wrong, I want proof that I wasn't complicit in anything illegal. He nodded slowly. I'll have my lawyer draw something up. Anything else? One more thing. You never sit in my grandmother's chair again. That surprised laugh, bright and genuine. Deal. He extended his hand across the table. I looked at it, large, strong, calloused in ways I wouldn't have expected, and felt the weight of the moment. 1 handshake, 1 year, 1 chance to save my family. I took his hand. I started the following Monday. Dante's primary office was in a sleek tower downtown, all glass and chrome and intimidating architecture. My workspace was on the 22nd floor, a glass-walled office with a view that made me gasp. Is this acceptable? Dante asked from the doorway. It's a lot. You'll need space to work. I'm told architects require room to spread out. Most of us work in cubicles. Most of you don't work for me. The first project was a hotel in the Arts District, a gorgeous old building that had fallen into disrepair. I spent weeks reviewing plans, meeting with contractors, assessing what could be saved and what needed to go. It was good work, real work, the kind of work I loved. And that was the problem. I kept forgetting why I was there. Kept forgetting that this was an arrangement, a debt being paid. Kept forgetting that the man who appeared in my doorway every afternoon was the same man who'd terrorized my family. You're frowning at the blueprints again. I looked up. Dante was leaning against the doorframe, 2 coffee cups in his hands. The load-bearing wall in the lobby is in the wrong place. If we want to open up the space, we need to relocate it entirely. Can you? It'll cost more. Delay the timeline by 2 weeks. He handed me a coffee, his fingers brushing mine. Then we delay. I want it done right. Most clients prioritize speed over quality. I'm not most clients. For the next hour, I walked him through my ideas for the hotel. He listened, really listened, asked questions that showed he understood and cared about more than just profit. "You love this," he said when I finished. "Is it that obvious? Your whole face changes when you talk about design. You come alive." I felt my cheeks warm. I've wanted to be an architect since I was 8. My grandfather used to take me to job sites, show me how things went together. "That's rare, knowing what you want so young. What about you?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Did you always know you'd do what you do?" Something closed off in his expression. "No, I had other plans." "What happened?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Life happened. You start on one path and circumstances push you onto another. Do you regret it?" "Every day." He stood abruptly, the vulnerability disappearing. "I have a meeting. The timeline changes are approved." Then he was gone, leaving me with more questions than answers. The weeks turned to months. The hotel project consumed my days. I was on site at 7, often staying until 10 at night. Contractors learned my name, then learned to fear my attention to detail. And through it all, there was Dante. He came to the site twice a week, finding excuses to walk through whatever I was working on. He brought me coffee, asked my opinions on furniture, on colors, on ridiculous chandeliers vendors tried to sell him. He remembered things, how I took my coffee, my sister's name, my birthday. "You shouldn't know that," I said when he produced a small cake after everyone had left for the day. And yet, we sat on paint-splattered drop cloths in the half-finished lobby, sharing cake with plastic forks. "This is weird," I said. "What is?" "This, us, whatever this is. Does it bother you?" "I don't know, it should. You're my boss, you're my father's creditor, you're a criminal." I was going to say complicated. That laugh again, I was getting addicted to it. "You could leave," he said softly. 4 months down, the debt's more than a third paid. "Is that what you want?" He looked at me then, really looked, and what I saw stole my breath. "What I want is irrelevant. What matters is what's right." "And what's right?" "I don't know anymore." He shifted to face me. "I know that I look forward to seeing you every day. I know that your laugh is the best part of my week. I know that when you argue with contractors, I want to give you whatever you're fighting for, just to see you win." My heart raced. "Dante, I know that I'm falling for you, Sofia, and I know I have no right to." "Then why tell me?" "Because you asked, and because I promised I'd never lie to you." "I'm not afraid of you," I said. "I was that first night, but I'm not anymore." "You should be." "Why, because of what people say?" I shifted closer. "I've watched you for 4 months. I've seen how you treat your employees, how you handle problems. Maybe the world thinks you're a monster, but I've never seen anything monstrous. You don't know everything. Then tell me, give me a reason to run." So he did. He told me about growing up poor, watching his mother work 3 jobs while his father drank everything away. About dropping out of college when his father died and left behind crushing debt. About accepting an offer from a man who saw potential in his anger. He told me about the violence, the moral compromises, the lines he'd crossed. And he told me about what he was trying to change, the legitimate businesses, the people he was helping leave the life, the future he was building from the wreckage. "I'm not a good man," he finished, "but I'm trying." I took his hand. "That matters. Even now, knowing what you know. We don't choose our circumstances, we only choose what we do with them." He raised my hand to his lips. "You're remarkable." "I'm stubborn." "Your mother is wrong about that being your worst quality." And then I kissed him. His lips were warm, soft, tasting like chocolate and surprise. For a heartbeat nothing, then his hand cupped my face and he kissed me back like I was oxygen. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "This is a terrible idea," he murmured. "Probably. It could ruin everything." "I know. I should walk away." Is that what you want? I want you, Sofia, more than I've wanted anything, and that terrifies me. Why? Because I don't know how to do this, how to let someone in without destroying them. I kissed him again, softer, then we figure it out together. The next 3 months were the happiest of my life. We kept our relationship quiet at first, discreet lunches, long conversations after hours, stolen kisses in empty conference rooms. But people noticed. My family watched me come alive in ways they hadn't seen in years. You're seeing someone, my mother said at Sunday dinner. Maybe. The way you smile at your phone is not maybe, tesoro. It's complicated. Love usually is. Whoever he is, bring him to dinner. I nearly choked. That the man I was seeing had already sat in this room and made them tremble was a conversation for another time. The hotel opened to rave reviews. Critics called it a masterpiece. Bookings flooded in. 8 months into my contract, Dante took me to his grandmother's grave. He brought roses, her favorite, and told me about growing up in her kitchen. She'd like you, he said. She respected anyone willing to stand up for what they believed in. Is that what I do? You stood up to me when no one else would. He pulled me close. I love you, I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I need you to know. I love you too. Even knowing what I am. Because of who you are, who you're becoming. He held me for a long time, then something shifted in his expression. There's something I need to tell you. Your father's debt was paid off 4 months ago. I stared. What? I couldn't take money from someone. He ran a hand through his hair. It felt wrong. I canceled it the day after your birthday. You canceled it and didn't tell me. I didn't want you to stay because of obligation. I wanted you to stay because you wanted to. So for 4 months, I've been working for nothing. No, you've been building your portfolio. Your salary is real, but the debt was gone. I should have been angry. Part of me was, but I understood. You could have told me. Would you have stayed? Of course, I love you. Relief flooded his face. Yeah. But you're buying me dinner, somewhere expensive, with dessert. He laughed. Deal. 1 year later, I stood in the lobby of our hotel, watching preparations for our wedding reception. Dante had proposed on the rooftop terrace we'd designed together. He'd gone down on one knee with his grandmother's ring, his voice shaking. I said yes before he finished. My family took it better than expected. My father hugged him, my mother cried. Marco gave the shovel talk. I wouldn't dream of hurting her, Dante said. Your sister scares me more than any of you. The ceremony was small. Just the people who mattered. I wore my grandmother's veil. When we exchanged vows, his voice broke, and I cried so hard I could barely see. But I saw him, I always saw him. Now, as the reception wound down, Dante pulled me onto the dance floor. Happy, he asked. Deliriously. Regrets. I thought about everything that had brought us here. The fear and anger of that first dinner. The slow revelation that the man I'd prepared to hate was the man I needed. Not a single one. He kissed me softly. There's a tradition in my family. The husband carries his wife over the threshold. We're in a hotel. A hotel we built together. He swept me up and carried me toward the elevator as guests cheered. You're ridiculous, I laughed. You love it. I love you. Forever. I looked at this man, my husband, my partner, my home. This dangerous, complicated, beautiful man who had walked into my family's dining room and changed everything. Forever. And I meant it. So there you have it, my story, our story. The night Dante Russo walked into my family's dining room, I had no idea how completely he would change my life. I thought I was just protecting my family, confronting a threat. I never imagined I'd fall in love with the man I was supposed to fear. But life surprises us. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think I made the right choice? Would you have stood up to Dante that night or stayed silent? Could you fall in love with someone whose world is so different from your own? Could you choose love even when it meant accepting complicated truths? What about Dante? Do you believe people can change? Can someone with a dark past build a brighter future? Here's what I know. Love isn't always simple or safe. Sometimes it asks us to be braver than we thought possible. Sometimes it demands we see past surfaces to truth underneath. Sometimes it shows up in the most unexpected package and dares us to take a chance. I took that chance. It was the best decision I ever made. If Sofia and Dante's story touched your heart, please subscribe to this channel and leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me about your own unexpected love story. Tell me where in the world you're listening from. You're not just watching videos. You're part of a community that believes in complicated, messy, beautiful love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is stand up at a dinner table and refuse to bow. And sometimes, that's exactly what changes everything.